Welcome back. The topic tonight is On the Run, and we're talking to the author of the book On the Run, Mr. ABrowning. And we've also been joined, Mr. ABrowning, I'm sorry, Mr. Browning.
Everybody does it, Dr. Don't worry about it.
We've also been joined by Mr. Joseph Scales, who is the president of the Nashville branch of the NAACP. Mr. Scales, you've had an opportunity to hear Mr. Browning's explanation of his book On the Run, dealing with the death of 2 policemen in Nashville, in North Nashville in 1968, and the subsequent capture and trial of the 5 persons that were eventually involved in that. The NAACP, we understand, is also interested not only in that case, but in similar kinds of cases. And so why don't you give us some information in reference to what the NAACP is doing in reference to these kinds of incarcerations nationally now?
Thank you, Doctor. Yes, I've had the chance to talk with Mr. ABrowning. I've read his book. It's a very interesting book, and I'm glad that someone has finally taken the initiative to investigate cases like this. One of the roles that the NAACP does play in things like this is to see that justice is done in the courts. And I feel sure from the information that I have read in the book, the persons that I've talked with, that there was injustice done in the court, and especially during this era of 1968. And the NAACP nationally is going to be involved in all cases. I did say all cases, but all cases that we can be involved in into seeing that justice is done in case.
Very good. I think, Mr. Browning, one thing that you painted during the period was a Nashville that had 2 major newspapers, the Nashville Banner and the Nashville Tennessean, but it seems that these were not very, very helpful instruments in terms of trying to portray the entire story from the point of view of fairness.
Well, that was kind of reflective of the basic tensions that existed and the mistrust and prejudices, let's get right down to it, that existed and in some ways still do all over the South, all over the nation. But the papers did portray that what the papers did most, that was most damaging to the black community, Dr. Haney, was they just accepted the explanation offered by the police department on everything. Well, what we've got here is some black power, maybe some communist-inspired guys who are out here shooting police officers. Boom, black militants gunned down 2 police officers. That was a problem, and frankly, it exists even up to today in some regards. Steve Parker, there was a story recently in the paper about Steve Parker's unsuccessful effort for a formal hearing in front of the Tennessee State Board of Paroles, and instead of saying, and the story was basically by Kirk Loggins, was very good. It had a sympathetic tone to it that maybe he had some questions about it, but the headline, convicted cop killer. Well, this was a man who had just been, in the most recent trial, had been acquitted. So why not say acquitted, you know, charged felon or whatever, you know.
Very good. Now, Mr. Scales, we also understand that there's a petition that's being circulated within the black community, well, within the entire Nashville community, in terms of seeking some kind of help for those who are incarcerated, especially Mr. Allen and Parker, in reference to this. Do you know anything about this, and is the NAACP playing any role in this position?
We are going to play a role in this position, Dr. Haney. From what I can understand, there is and there has been a petition circulated throughout not only this community but other communities where these people have lived, Texas, Florida, and etc. And we're trying to get enough names on this petition as to where we can get something done. Yes, the NAACP will play a role in this particular case. As I have stated earlier, there are a lot of unanswered questions that we would like to see answered. For instance, why is it that these black men were tried for murder for a white policeman that died 61 days after the shooting, and they were not tried that day, not tried for the policeman that was killed that day, whom happened to be black? And also, why is it that they let one of the persons that was charged out on parole when the black policeman was killed, and the day that the white policeman died, 61 days later, he was arrested?
And so there's something that smells like racism within the whole judicial system in terms of dealing with this case.
Very definitely. Racism along with politics. If you notice, they had some young attorneys on the cases, and there were political ambition. It was just a lot of unanswered questions that need to be answered.
And Mr. Browning, you've also mentioned politics in terms of dealing with the pardon board and the governor's office in terms of dealing with this position.
Well, that's the most disappointing thing that I've seen among many, many disappointing things. And like Joe's saying, there are a lot of things there to look at. But Steve Parker, who, for those who don't know, and I don't think we've said that, was convicted by an all-white jury in 1968. In 1989, without taking the witness stand and allowing his testimony from the trial in 1968 being read to a jury that consisted of 7 blacks and 5 whites, was acquitted in 15 seconds, and for his same involvement on the night of the shooting. And now he petitioned the Board of Paroles logically to say, hey, look, I've always said I didn't do anything. Now my innocence has been proved. How about some clemency and some relief from this first 99-year sentence? And they won't even give him a formal hearing. And I'm appalled by that. There's nothing fair about it, absolutely. The people in California who read my book looking at it for a movie immediately called me, and when they heard that decision, and said, wait a minute, this is not fair.
And so this issue is not only important in Nashville here, but I think you also mentioned the fact that Cincinnati and Kentucky and other areas outside.
The Cincinnati Post thought that this whole case, and read the book and liked it, and ran it on page 1 of the newspaper. The only negative reviews that have been written about this book, and we've gotten positive reviews all over the nation. Scripps Howard News Service sent out a positive review to 256 newspapers nationwide. The only negative reviews of this book were the 2 Nashville papers, the Banner and the Tennessean, and a Knoxville paper. And that ought to tell you something.
Very good. And of course, Mr. Scales, do you have anything to add? I think we might have about a minute before we call an end to this segment. Do you have anything to add in terms of the activities of the NAACP, not only in reference to this particular case, but in reference to some of the issues that we've raised, police brutality and et cetera, before we call it quits for today?
Yes, there are several other cases of people that are institutionalized in the Tennessee State Pen that have written us letters of injustice in the courts that we shall be and will be looking into. Also, let me back up just a moment about the Bill Allen case. The national NAACP legal defense is going to be investigating that case also.
Very good.
We have a prisoner that has sent us a tape that was made prior to his arrest and his trial. Some of the things that the policeman did say that they did not say in trial. We'll be looking into that case.
And of course, this is our time, really, for the evening. But let me thank both of you for coming by and giving us this very, very good information about this very, very sensitive issue. And again, let me encourage you to tune in again next week for another informative edition of Comments.
On the next